Well, now we've seen, of course, the complete unthinkable happen. Basically, a complete ditching, of course, of Ukraine by America is just completely and absolutely heartless. I can basically say nothing other else than what I haven't said already. And like I say, I've done videos on that already. But it's absolutely unbelievable. But the big, of course, and bigger worry is the fact that you now have, as we've said, Russian state TV and probably even people inside the Kremlin say, well, actually, Trump has given us the green light to go and attack other NATO countries now because we don't have to worry about American intervention. And always remember, we've said what the next targets for Putin would be. I think if he can end the war in Ukraine, keep that territory, he's not going to demobilize his army. He will probably go into Georgia, put down the protests that are happening there very violently, and then afterwards he's got a choice. He can either go after the Baltics, which would be his probable next logical target, or he would go after Poland. Poland would be a little bit tougher nut to crack, considering how well armed and tooled up they've been getting over the past couple of years. And I will always say this, Poland has been, next to Ukraine, the other country that has really taken the threat of Russian revanchism and imperialism very seriously. And they have, equipped themselves accordingly. They are, I would say, probably the most prepared country in Europe to take on the Russians at this point. So maybe he won't. Who knows? Well, who knows what he'll do, but he'll certainly go after Poland in some way, shape, or form. But almost certainly, we should worry about the Baltic states in general. Very, very much so. Very, very much so. So yeah, I think he will go after one of those three, if not all three. I think if you think about it, if he thinks he's been given the green light to go after European countries, the Baltic states are the next logical option. I think, and I'm really glad we have had Starmer come out and say that Ukraine is on an irreversible path to NATO membership. And that, I think, says it all. It is the strongest condemnation of Trump that you cannot stop them joining NATO. They are going to join NATO one way or another. If you try and stop it, you will look bad. Ukraine needs NATO above and foremost. It has been their most asked item constantly throughout this. The Ukrainians have been saying, we want a NATO. We know that protects us. We know that gives us a level of protection that Russia will not dare do. However, with the revocation of Article 5, well, and of course, you've had Zelenskyy come out and warn, according to his intelligence, he now thinks, according to then Ukrainian intelligence that they've gotten, that Putin will go after a European country in 2026, either the Baltic states or Poland. So that is worrying. That is incredibly concerning, and we should take that incredibly seriously. Incredibly seriously. Because if we don't, we risk so much in that case. But yeah, I just want to sort of cover Starmer's words more because I think it is very, very much what needs to be said, but also to reiterate what other European presidents are saying as well in this, because Macron has also come out very, very strong, condemning Trump as well. So that is very good to sort of see that Europe is very sort of speaking with one voice on this, that what Trump has done is ludicrous. So before you get into this, like I say, click the like, click the share button down below, Patreon page, buy me coffee link, YouTube thank you button, and of course Patreon page as well. So thank you very much to everyone who does help support the channel, and of course thank you to people who, even if you just click the like and share button. So let's crack on then into this. This comes from The Guardian. The title on this, like I say, developing news constantly on this at the moment. You can understand why. Ukraine now on an irreversible path to NATO membership, Starmer tells Zelenskyy. Ukraine remains now on an irreversible path towards NATO membership, Keir Starmer has told Volodymyr Zelenskyy in a phone call that now underlined the divide between Europe and the US over the future of the country. According to Downing Street, when it read out the call with the Ukrainian president, Starmer stressed the UK's now concrete support for Ukraine as long as it needed. And again, I think that is good to say as well. I think that is good to say as well. That we must really show that Ukraine has friends in Europe, that it has a friend in the UK. He went on to say that he was now unequivocal that there could be no talks about Ukraine without Ukraine. Again, good for reaffirming that as well. That constantly needs the message to be sent by all of Europe. Ukraine needs strong security guarantees, further lethal aid, and of course, a sovereign future. It can now count on the UK to step up. The Prime Minister reiterated the UK's commitment to Ukraine, beginning on an irreversible path to NATO, as agreed by all allies at a Washington summit last year. So that we can basically see. And the only stumbling block at that point might be the US, but we'll see. So Starmer's sentiments are, of course, no more, of course, the restatement of the UK's very long-standing position. And again, good on that one. One, of course, maintained by both the Labour and Conservatives. The decision to speak to Zelenskyy, and of course, the very strong language used in, of course, the fresh renaissance after Donald Trump's interventions, of course, this week. On Wednesday, of course, the president suddenly announced that he and Putin would be speaking at length and agreeing on beginning negotiations over a ceasefire in Ukraine. Trump said it was unlikely Kiev would win back all its territory and that he was, quote, okay with Ukraine not having NATO membership, another major concession to Moscow made before any formal talks have begun. Like I say, what are they going to get out of this? It's peace at any price, so that Trump can come out, and I said this before, so Trump can come out and just say, I made peace. He can do his Neville Chamberlain moment and wave his paper about outside an airplane. Moscow, of course, US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth have also been speaking out at the NATO summit in Brussels, ruled out Ukraine's membership of the alliance and the restoration of Crimea and other occupied territories by Moscow since 2014. Again, that's bad because, again, you're pretty much rewarding Russia for all of this, illegal invasion that it pursued. The news was, of course, prompted by dismay by Ukraine and the imbalance, of course, in Moscow. At the apparent end of course, Russia's isolation now and the end of the world stage. However, European defense ministers who are also gathered in Brussels for a NATO meeting this week have now pushed back hard against the concessions to Russia. Speaking overnight, Emmanuel Macron said that a peace deal would amount to a, quote, capitulation, and that only Zelenskyy could negotiate on behalf of his country. Yes, good. That's what also needs to be said as well. Good. I'm glad that at least we've got Macron on this as well. And I'm glad that he's pointing out as well that, any peace deal, of course, Russia will probably basically be pushing for the complete and absolute capitulation of Ukraine. And Trump will accept that because he won't care. It's peace. Oh, Ukraine capitulates to Russia? It's peace. Who cares? What he wants. Doesn't matter about anything else. Just peace. Peace at any cost. That is a problem. Downing Street and Starmer said that the Ukrainian president agreed on the call that the third anniversary of the Russian invasion in 10 days' time would, of course, be a very important moment to demonstrate the international unity and support for Ukraine. The leaders also reflected on the Prime Minister's visit to Kiev last month. The president updated the plans on the Munich Security Conference. They agreed to stay now in close contact. So shortly before the phone call, the UK Foreign Office imposed sanctions targeting figures now working in the Russian government, including Pavel Falov, the defense minister, Vladimir Senegin, who's the arm of the country's Ministry of Defense. The Foreign Office said in a statement it also now sanctioned Artem Chalder, who's now Extractive's company, of course, supports Russian state-owned businesses. The two entities linked now to Russia's nuclear energy corporation, Rostom. So, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen, folks. We'll see. But Putin is going to trot out his list of demands, and what's Trump going to say to it? But I'm very, very glad to say, very, very glad to say, we have pretty much at this point, all, if not all, European leaders have come out and said this cannot happen. Like, this cannot happen. Your plan is just unworkable. And I think they really need to start being mean to Trump. Really start being mean. And as I've said before, Hurricane Trump pushing us back closer into Europe, or quicker than people thought. But there you go. That again, I've said this some more. We are a part of Europe. We need to be very much united with them economically, for defense wise, politically as well. That future is inevitable, as I've always said. It's just really a matter of time and speed, and I suppose political events and around the world as well. So, as always, thank you very much, of course, for watching, and of course, let me know what you think down below as well. It's a very, very worrying time, I think, for all concerned when you look at. We've been really looking and following this conflict since it began, and sort of giving you updates. I find this very, very deeply concerning at the moment. I don't know what's going to happen next, quite frankly, on this. Well, we'll see, and we'll give you any updates when, of course, we hear and see any of the stuff. So, as always, thank you very much for watching, and of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.